it's time to start talking about Bert again and talking about Short But Sweet, Volume 4. And I just wanted to bring you on here to get a chance to talk about it a little bit more, making it, what that process was like for you, how long it took, and what you had in mind going into it. What this series means to you, and maybe what you're looking forward to in the near future in terms of what your next move might be for releasing music.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this one, honestly, a lot of these are just beats that I've made either days ago or months ago or years ago. So some of them, like, I think Stand Up on this is, maybe 1 or 2 years old even. 'Cause I definitely remember playing that one in a live place once in a venue in front of people. So that was definitely at least a year ago.
Nuts, by the way. Like, if I was at that concert, that's the beat that would really get me, like, head nodding at, like, a vicious kind of degree.
Yeah, I think this one actually has a lot of heavy beats on it. I try to kind of like balance it out with like a little bit of everything, but I feel like there's a lot of like really hard beats on this one. That's just how it ended up on this one. But
and Stand Up is coming up here in a second, by the way, just as you continue to talk. For listeners, you're about to hear the beat that we're talking about.
And yeah, and that one's actually, usually I'm super sample heavy on all of my beats, but that one, there's just samples kind of sprinkled in on the chorus, and then in the second part of the verse, the rest of the stuff is just playing stuff in. So that was a little bit more, I guess, experimental for me because I'm so used to just relying on the samples.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, but also, some of the beats were like, the song I did with A Revolution at the end was made, a week before I put the album out, maybe a week or 2 weeks, so that one just kind of like sealed the deal at the end. And it's usually the feature at the end that's always the last thing that I get before finishing it up.
Honestly, in a lot of times when I get a chance to speak to an artist, and not just you or someone that's been on my podcast, but other interviews I've done for artists that I listen to pretty regularly, like, it's always funny to hear this same thing that a lot of people sometimes they'll take something that's a couple years old and put it on an album with a bunch of other stuff that's either really recent or also maybe older but not as old. So as a listener, as a fan, like, I just hear these songs and they kind of all occur to me at one time. They all feel like they've been made in the same creative process. But that's cool that you've been able to take things that you've done recently and relate them back to even older work that you've done and still make it all sound like it should fit in the same project.
Yeah, the thing with that though is then the beat, when I made Stand Up 2 years ago, I was like, oh, this is super fire, best beat I've ever made, and it just it withstood the test of time of like being able to sit around for a year, and I'm like, okay, I still want to put this out because usually
that's
my beats won't last that long.
I also want to ask, like, with that song, did it sound differently than it does now at all? Or because to me, I mean, it's such a great beat. I'm almost surprised that it wasn't something that you put out sooner.
I'm surprised too with a lot of these. Most of these are beats that I probably sent to 5 to 10 rappers. It's at least been in their inboxes, whether or not they listen to them. But like, I've sent a lot of these beats out to people, and the ones that don't get picked up by anyone are the ones that I put on the EP. So it's like that one I was kind of amazed because there's so much open space for someone to rap on it. And I've had like a few people hit me up afterwards like, oh, I wish I would have known about that one. I would have rapped on it, which, of course, people can still rap on any of these beats now. I don't care. Yes. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I've been trying to get people on that beat, and no one did anything on it. But yeah, it was pretty much the same the whole time.
Really? Come on.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy that sat on the shelves for a little while, but I'm very glad that it's on this project, because with the shorter with the shorter album length in general, it kind of just it really just emphasizes it that much more, makes it stand out that much more. So another favorite moment of mine here was Into the Sea. yeah, again, there's just something about these beats that, not only are entertaining to listen to on their own, but they're interesting to listen to kind of in the background as well. So like whether or not I'm actually paying attention to this or I'm paying attention to something else and I'm listening to this, like I really enjoy having it on right now, like just talking to you kind of at length about the project and hearing it in the background is fucking fire.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was hoping for. That's why I keep making instrumental music, is because people listen to it in the background. And people like to have something that's not esoteric and doom and INS rapping in your face.
Fly low.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to really say about Into the Sea that's interesting, or how long ago was this one produced, or anything to add?
That was really cool. I was working on some sort of social media post to properly give credit for this one. Usually I don't talk about the samples that I use, because the samples are dug up stuff. But that one is an artist named Jordy Vaughn. She's out of Minnesota, I'm pretty sure, Minneapolis or something like that. But
is this like a newer or current artist, or was this kind
of
like
that song is maybe 2 years old. That's probably one of the newest songs I've ever sampled.
Oh wow.
Because it came out probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and my friend Megan Hamilton, she's a producer from Minneapolis, and she engineered it and produced this EP for Jordy. And so I just happened to see Megan post about it, and I went and listened to it and found that song. The song is originally called Lost at Sea, and it's crazy in itself. I heard it and I was like, I need to flip this. So so I made the beat a while back, and I hit her about it, saying that I might have someone rap on it or whatever, just seeing if it's all cool if I use this, and she was all about it. And yeah, so that's just a really cool one that was a different type of interaction, actually being able to reach out to the person I sampled, and it's a newer song and everything. But that one's super dynamic, and I just layered a lot of different parts of the song over each other, and she has full band or full orchestra sounding stuff. It's super big sounding.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful sounding vocal addition to what you have laying underneath. And I appreciated that aspect of it too. So this project being 6 songs, and I'm sorry if I'm calling it an album and it's an EP, but
no, I don't know what to call it either. I just call it a project.
Yeah, the terms are getting more interchangeable than ever at this point.
Yeah.
But it was nice to hear you it was nice to hear vocals in here at one point, being actually having a featured guest, a rapper, come on to lay vocals, but then also in a moment like Into the Sea, using vocals too. So there's another moment with a nice touch of vocals here, but I like that this track is called Organ Donor, and we're gonna hear some pretty fat organs come in here. But I'm gonna bring this song up too. I think I just heard it, but what can you tell me about A Revolution? Did I say it right? And that collab there.
Yeah, she's dope. She reached out to me, I think either earlier this year or middle of last year. She, I think, got my info from Ms. L, who's another artist from Portland. Ms. L's super dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think A-Rev has just been doing music for a while in Portland, but she just, I think, recently has been getting into rapping, or at least rapping on records and stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely think she's been rapping for a while, because she's
she's nice.
She's got skills for sure. So I think she just reached out hey, I'm trying to work on some music in Portland. Elle said you're a good person to reach out to in terms of that. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. So I was like, yo, you want to get on this project? Because actually I was waiting on a feature for a different song to end off the project, and didn't get the feature for a long time. And I was like, who else should I get on this? And I was like, and she was the next person I thought of, and it happened real fast, and she was all about it and killed it. And so that was just a really nice way to finish out the project.
So it's nice to hear you kind of keep saying, in these moments where you weren't even expecting it. Someone reached out to you with something cool. Like, how do you think you've been able to kind of have those moments happen for you? Do you feel like it's just been years in the game, like just, networking and being really passionate about your music, or what? Because it,
Yeah,
it sounds like,
yeah, that's pretty.
and at least in certain key moments, like your name is kind of spread out in a way that's just come back to you in a really nice and favorable way.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Like, I've been DJing and producing for probably 10 or so years now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and definitely DJing longer, but like as far as like actually working with artists and stuff, it's been a while, and only recently have I become a solo artist, like coming out here. So, but I've always never like tried to put the focus on myself too much. I have a weird thing of like I don't like to put the focus on myself. So
I understand
when
that.
so yeah, I've always been like down to work with other people and like, try to produce whole projects for stuff. I'm very much like I want to be like that alchemist situation where I'm just working with new people, new project with a new person, new project with a new person, just
Yeah.
like keep doing it. Um, and yeah, it's just been like not worrying about how much I'm getting paid for anything or if I'm getting paid for anything necessarily, but like
Yep.
just who I'm working with. And I've had some real shit encounters with people that like I've invested heavily in a project and like, oh yeah, this is gonna be it, and then realize I'm getting, you know, screwed over on some, and then I'm just like, well, this was a whole waste of time. But those are
Mm-hmm.
the ones that like I just learn from those,
For
and
sure.
the good things come. Like you said, it just comes along. I just don't try too hard. I just do what I think feels right, and like good things keep happening just like on off chances. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I just try not to plan too much for anything.
You mentioned the Alchemist as a inspiration, maybe
Oh yeah.
creatively or just like in terms of what he represents for music and the kind of music that he is known for. Who else would you say would be an inspiration for you, kind of in that way? Like, man, if I could, only even just do half of what this artist did, like that would be exciting to me.
Man, I mean, I know he hasn't done as much as Alchemist necessarily, but Evidence is like my hugest like influence. Evidence
Sure.
and People Under the Stairs are like my probably two biggest like
Damn. Rest in peace, Double
um
K.
yeah, rest in peace Double K. So like it's you know, I would say a huge majority of my musical influences been from those guys, not just from their music, but their like way of life. Evidence, I've like followed him throughout his whole career and just been a huge fan. Like I remember I went and saw him in Missoula, Montana. He was on tour with like Brother Ali and some other people. I was like 18 or 19, and I had um this like what do they call it? It's like one of those eye charts that has the E at the top and
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
everything.
like an eye
So I did
test.
this whole,
Yeah.
yeah, I did this whole little thing where I made it like the Evidence logo, the EV on the top, and then I made the O in the middle, like the Dilated Peoples logo. And I was like, and I got him to sign it, and I was so hype, and like, that was it's like one of those defining moments from like, oh, I met my idol, and he thought it was dope, and he like took a picture of it and like put it up on Instagram, back in 2008 when Instagram was like new. I just remember I was just like so hyped that I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So, just shit like that where I'm just like, I'm always a fan first, and I'll always be,